And
Hey,
we're live. Hi Mal, how you doing? Even though I know how you're
great.
doing, but
Well, I guess we'll give it a couple minutes and let
yeah,
see if some more friends join us today. I'm super
yes,
excited.
me
Uh,
too. Love the topic.
What have you been doing to play lately?
Oh gosh. Um, I have just been I actually had like a great weekend this weekend, which was very filled with play. We did a nice kind of like late hang on Saturday because it's been so hot here. So we're in Madrid, we're in Europe, and it's like there's just a huge heat wave. And we were just sitting around having some drinks, talking, and then we just decided to have a dance party. And it was only maybe like five of us, but we just had like a full on dance party. And it was so fun. And just taking photos and just feeling really grateful for just having that like moment with all my friends. And yeah, it was really lovely. So to me, it's like to make it feel like we're in a nightclub, but we're just like on a terrace at somebody's apartment just feels great. So, how
And
about
that's
you?
amazing. Oh my gosh. Golly, play. I mean, been playing a lot with my son. So
Yeah.
being really silly when a 5-year-old gets cranky, the best thing to kind of snap him out of it is just to act like I'm absolutely batshit crazy. So that's been fun. A lot of Legos, a lot of drawing. Um, Midsummer was a huge, the Swedish
Oh
festival. We
yeah.
had a huge party. So it was like a day, I think 10,000 people showed up in New York.
What?
Yeah, we all make flower crowns
Oh my gosh.
and really it's to celebrate sex and abundance. So,
Hell
it's like
yeah.
the maypole with the wreaths, it's just a big shout out to the penis, which I know is patriot, whatever. I don't know. It's just celebrate abundance and whatnot. But it was a
Could
lot of
also look
fun.
like two ovaries if you think about it, like the whole
There you
thing.
go.
It could be that.
And,
I think it's
yep. And
both, and then
yeah,
the, yeah, of course.
and then I
Pardon
did
me.
yoga of Times Square on Sunday, and that was epic. So that was really cool. Yeah.
So nice. Fun.
Well, so why don't we get started? Thank
Yeah.
you for everyone waiting an extra week for us. I know we skipped a week here. Just lots of summertime fun stuff happening. And so I guess it's important to pick up where we left off. On our
Yes.
last episode, we discussed how social courage has become a muscle that's atrophying. And,
Hmm.
and as a precursor to how and why that's hindering play, we gave some suggestions for how you can invest in low stake reps to strengthen that social intelligence and courage muscle. And today we're going to get around to play. Um, how to foster more of it in our relationships, because as it turns out, the person who practices play in the relationships that are easy, the person who's practiced at being curious and attuned and moves with people close to them, also turns out to be the person who's able to handle the harder conversations when adversity happens. And
Hmm.
in our very polarized, divisive world, a very online, tech driven, systems optimized world, we need to remember that human connection is not something to optimize, but it is a playground for us to experience the wonders of life. So, Shula, my favorite thing to start off with asking you is what are you seeing in the field in terms of dating and how the lack of play is impacting the couples and individuals you talk to?
Yeah, I think there is this taking of oneself really seriously, I think, in dating and obviously, or self-presentation or putting oneself out there, right? So much of dating is putting yourself out there. And I think that especially for a lot of the younger folks that I'm working with, like Gen Z, Gen Alpha, but also we're all kind of part of this online culture, right? And I think that but with the younger folks who didn't experience the freedom of, cell phone free, video free kind of nights out, there is a little bit more self consciousness. I find that they can't kind of let their guard down because any moment they might be recorded, or they might be filmed, or something like that, that really creates this inability to just let their hair down a little bit, for lack of a better word, or term. So I think that this sense of surveillance has really robbed some generations of just having a little bit more of a, you know, kind of who cares attitude, or like this is just fun, or um, you know, telling a joke and maybe it not landing, right? Or playfully teasing another person. There's just a little bit less permission folks are giving themselves to be playful, because of this fear of social retribution, or, looking a fool. And, I always tell people, I'm sorry, but like, a lot of life is like looking a fool, right? So, I mean, and learning from maybe mistakes, or learning from, jokes not landing, but, it doesn't necessarily, make you a terrible person or an unfunny person, just somebody who's just giving it a shot, right? So, I'm seeing a lot of that with some of the younger folks. And I mean, are you seeing that with some people too as well, or
Oh,
what have
absolutely.
you been seeing?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think, I mean, back to the sort of social intelligence and courage muscle, a lot
Yeah.
of I hear that people are afraid to go up to people and strangers and talk to them. Um,
Yes.
so,
Mm-hmm.
from the perspective of just this lack of initiation, because
Yeah.
somebody might take it the wrong way. Somebody might say, I don't take that as a compliment. I take that as you being a creep or you trying to assault me. And, I think learning how to take a compliment is a really big life skill. And we have a lot of adults who don't know how to. It's totally fine to say thank you gracefully when somebody pays you a
Mm-hmm.
compliment, but then it's
Mm-hmm.
it's what happens after where things can
Yeah.
get creepy. And
Mm-hmm.
let's see, I dread social gatherings. I'm loving the
Hello.
uh, so we've got a lot of comments. I dread social gatherings. Yes, go Knicks. I dread
Yeah.
social gatherings, but when I force myself into it, I'm not terrible, which shows that you have good
Listen.
practice. Um,
Yeah.
was speaking with a college professor who's going to teach a summer session for 15-year-olds. She's excited because they're so direct with ideas and creativity compared to the 20-year-olds during the semester who hold back in class. Um, and I think that's something, I do a lot of work with college kids, and that's also something from a professor standpoint, is that they're not getting the engagement in classrooms, they're not getting the questions asked. People are afraid to even ask questions in the classroom because they're afraid of looking silly. And if you want to get good at sex, if you want to get good at reading people, if you want to figure out what, not just what you want, but what you need in
Right.
life, you have to have a lot of practice, and that practice
Right.
requires the courage. So you get the
Right.
courage, and when you're awkward, guess what happens in an awkward moment? You can be funny, you can
Exactly.
be silly,
Mm-hmm.
mess up, you can be funny, you can be silly. That is play. Play is the solution to awkwardness. Play, if you fart during sex, what are you gonna do? You're gonna laugh at sex is messy. Person,
Call the police.
yeah, call the
That's your-
police. Person farted. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
things happen, shit happens,
Yeah.
literally, and we have to find a way to utilize humor and
Right.
humility, and
Yes.
make it. It doesn't have to be completely self-deprecating, but we really
No.
do need to learn how to play more, and in
Yes.
that play is where we foster connection and intimacy. There's not.
Totally. And
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, and just like, Mad Philosopher Society said, I'm not terrible, right? Like I go, and when I force myself into it, or like when you kind of overcome the resistance towards taking a risk, or, interacting with somebody, and you're not terrible, that also builds that resilience, right? Like that builds that muscle and that skill. Like I'm not terrible at it. Can I get better at this? Or, what would I allow myself to say, or what can I, bring up when I'm less nervous because I'm more practiced at this?
Yeah, and I think that's a part of it. When we look at play from a developmental standpoint, and I mean, I'm sort of at this purview a lot watching children, and
Yeah.
how we develop as children. And this is one of the, there's so much research coming out now about screens and how all the tech icons are sending their kids to little school in the Bay Area and the Waldorf school where there are no screens, there's no technology allowed, and yet they want us to give
Yeah, like
to our kids, which is
yeah.
crazy. And so it's also very telling, right? And what we're finding is that there is this sort of neurological hijacking when we give kids too many screens, and what we're taking away from them, robbing from them, is this ability to develop social and emotional intelligence. And it is in play where we learn that. We learn where we can push the boundaries. We learn where I said the thing that made things awkward, where I messed up.
Right.
And we still are learning those things as adults. The world is never static. It's not the same. It changes. Me Too changed things. Like, lots of changes are constantly happening in real time around us. And play is where we get to go to relieve stress, to handle our anxiety, to process these big emotions. And it's also where we learn where the boundaries are at any given moment with any given person. And I think when we say, you know what, it's easier just to turn to the screen and play a video game, or it's easier to turn to the
Which
screen.
it is, by the way. It
Yeah.
is much easier to check out and do that. There's no risk. There's only reward, in a lot of ways. You can find something that will stimulate you. And it's not something that, where you're going to have something that you've said or something that you've taken a risk with to be reflected at you. Even making a comment on social media, or making a comment, like you're saying, we're so divided and people have these full arguments online, saying things that they would never dare say to somebody face to face, right?
Yeah.
Or and have those really important conversations and try to understand each other, or try to really get your point across, or try to express how something makes you feel. But no, people will do it online and just drop it there, and it's kind of that one-sided interaction where it's like, boom, there you go. But the impact isn't felt. The harshness of your words, or like even the passion behind your position, right? So it's not really connecting in ways.
Yeah, and I think technology again is a big part of this. When we are turning our humanity toward a device and not toward each other, we're losing that practice, and we're losing that ability to just have fun. And technology is built on a system of code, and code sets very rigid rules. There isn't
Mm,
gray area, there isn't nuance, there isn't context. And so for people who spend a lot of time online, it does seem like the world is a scary place, because, to your point, people are mean,
yeah.
people are bullies online. I think it was Sarah Silverman who did this thing where she would go up to people who trolled her on Twitter
Yes.
and
Yes.
said, "Oh, hey, here's what you said about me." And they were like, "Oh my gosh," and they were so nice. So
Hmm.
how we show up in person and how we show up online are oftentimes very different.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and and so I think we need more practice at showing up in person. And the other thing that I'm seeing, and I know you mentioned this, friendships that feel more like maintenance rather than
Hmm.
nights out with friends that feel like they're obligatory versus revitalizing. Um,
Hmm.
I know what you said earlier was job interviews, or dates that feel like job interviews. I know we've talked.
Yes. Yes. No. And I think that, when you lack the experience and you haven't flexed the muscle, I am working with somebody who has maybe less experience dating and is trying to gain more experience and is really curious about how the dates are going, and some of the feedback that they've gotten from people that they've gone on dates with, which is incredible when people give feedback after those things. But I mean, I think it could be generally helpful, right, if you're open to it. um, and what they feel is that they don't really know how to generate that kind of flirtation, or that romantic kind of interest, or even express that interest with the dates that they're on. And it just said to me, like, it just feels like an interview. Like, how do I inject that flirtation? And we started talking about, what happens on the dates. What are you noticing? And he said, well, I noticed myself holding myself back, went out on a date with this woman who was wearing a beautiful lace top, something that obviously she selected, and probably took a long time to figure out, or maybe not a long time, but maybe it's her date top. But he thought it was really attractive, rather fetching, and he did not take the opportunity to just say, you know, you look wonderful in that, right? That looks great. I mean, people go through all this effort to go out on a date, and nobody, it's when you feel like the other person hasn't noticed, like, that could be disappointed. So I asked him, well, why not? What would hold you back from actually sharing that? And it was very hard for him to think of, like, okay, well, I don't want it to be taken the wrong way, and I don't want it to be inappropriate, and well, it's a compliment, right? And it's something that this person selected to go out on this date, and they're hoping to be seen by you. This person also that he was on a date with shared a lot about herself, so it seemed like she was open, right? So reading those signs, and not just coming from his perspective of, like, I don't want this to be inappropriate, and obviously it's within, he told me what he wanted to say to her, and it was within total reason, right? Be appropriate, right? But also, like, be present,
Yeah.
and notice and compliment. And I think that that's something that's super important, and not rely on just the facts, ma'am. Okay, where'd you go to school? What do you do for work? How do you spend your weekends? Great information, of course, but also just noticing the person and letting them reflecting what you're seeing, right? Or hearing, right? You're really funny, or I love that top, or you've got great taste, things like that kind of create a little bit more of an atmosphere of, like, oh, this person's noticing me, rather than interrogating me, interviewing
Yeah.
me. So you can start from there.
And isn't that intimacy? And intimacy doesn't have to be this deep, emotionally rich, huge, heavy, scary thing. It's
Right.
literally just being seen and feeling seen and known by another. So on a first date, to, spark that intimacy, to spark that
Yeah.
flirtation, be clever, be witty, be funny. Again, humor. And I like what you're saying, because you're basically saying notice someone, and reminds
Yes.
me of the Queen Ellen Langer with mindfulness. And a lot of her research centers around this idea that when we have perceived control of a situation, we feel better. The
Mm-hmm.
paradox is that when we live in a rigid state, we think
Mm-hmm.
that's giving us control. When we have these systems, which is very much tech driven, which is very much, I'm going to interview this person on a date and make sure I know all of these things about them, and I'm dating for efficiency, to check these
Right.
boxes, to figure out if this is the person. You're not getting to know who somebody is, you're getting to know what they look like on paper. And
Right.
the paradox is that when we have that rigidity, we're not open. And if we're not open,
Mm-hmm.
we're curious. And if we're not curious, we're not able to play, because you have to be loose and open and attuned to another to play. So if you start thinking of instead of, I'm nervous, I'm going on this date, I really want it to work out, why don't you give yourself 5 reasons why it will work out? And think about,
Right.
and now give yourself 5 reasons why it won't work out. And tell yourself, well, if it doesn't work out, what opportunities would that open if it doesn't work out? So that no
Mm-hmm.
matter however the date works,
Mm-hmm.
I've got opportunities to date other people. I've learned something about myself. I've learned I
Right.
do or don't want, these qualities, or I flubbed when I asked this question. So I've learned these things. And so if you really open your mind to curiosity, that no matter
Mm-hmm.
how the scenario turns out, I think Ellen gave the example of a job interview. So if you get the job, great. Give yourself 5 reasons why it'll work out. But if you haven't heard back yet, give yourself 5 reasons why not getting the job would be great. And
Mm-hmm.
this 5 reasons could be, I find this other job where I make more money, or
Mm-hmm.
it turns out the boss at that job that I wanted, that I thought I would get, is a total asshole, right? So I think when we stop trying to control a situation, perceived control is what we're going for, not actual. And perceived
Yes.
control is a state of mind. Not controlling a person, not controlling the situation, but knowing that no matter what happens in that situation, that something good can come out of it. And while I'm in that situation, I'm not going to be flustered or worried or anxious. I'm going to be noticing what are three things in my environment I can notice right now. And those
Mhm.
sort of strategies can help reduce anxiety.
Mhm.
And I remember once I was like very nervous on a first date with somebody, and he had kind of like dirty blonde hair, but he had very bright red arm hair. But you could really only tell when the sun hit it.
Mhm.
Like, you have strawberry blonde arm hair. And he was so enlivened when I brought that up. I noticed that. And it really just eased the situation. So I do think that noticing, bringing up a comment, like, I love
Yeah.
sparkles and how I see this beautiful strawberry fields that is very I think these are ways we can play. And just that act of noticing is such a wonderful, thank you, Ellen Langer.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and it reduces anxiety. Like you said, it takes the attention off of you and your performance when you're present. That's what I always tell people when they're dating and they're feeling nervous about dating or just interacting with folks in general. If you pay attention to the other person and you focus on what they're saying, you learn more about them, number one. And number two, it takes the attention off of your performance. It becomes a back and forth, right? It invites them to do the same with you, should they be nervous as well. I really like what Reed is sharing here. It's a sign of the times that when I make quips, comments, jokes in public to strangers, an authentic bid for connection, they don't respond or even paying attention to the world around them. That or my jokes are bad. But even then, I think I get a response. You know what, Reed? I have this happens to me all the time too, which I'm kind of like, am I one of those people who's always just trying to have a conversation with people on the street? But I'll just make little comments about things, or sometimes I'll just ask people a question about, I don't know, like if I'm like, oh, am I in your way, or something like that. And they'll look at me like I don't know, like I said something crazy. And my partner and I talk about this all the time. We're like, it's insane. Sometimes you'll just talk to a person and they'll look at you like you've, like, I don't know, like snack their phone out of their hand, which maybe you have in a way by like trying to have an interaction with them. I tend to think that my jokes are good, and I offer this to you too. That it's just that they're distracted by their phone, and that's why they can't be present for our amazing jokes. Read, okay? That's my take on that one.
It
But
is,
it's true.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's unfortunate because there are so many opportunities for connection, and there is hard scientific data that talking to
Hmm.
strangers improves our overwhelming well-being. Like, just huge, huge swaths of data on this. You talk to a stranger, and again, I hear all the online like younger Gen Z girls freaking out, going, "I could get killed. That's dangerous." But like, talking to strangers improves your emotional and mental well-being. And listen, if there's a guy pushing a stroller and he makes a joke at you, I don't think he's going to kill you. Okay, if there's, it's like, and
And anyway, he has a big stroller in front of him, so you can run faster than he can come after you. But it's also like good to, even for self-defense reason, self-defense, even if somebody is an aggressor towards you, it's also good to let them know that you're present. They're not going to be able to get one over you. Like,
yeah,
you're there, you
yeah,
know.
and I can say that also, like, an interesting segue on power dynamics. And it kind of has to do with play too, because so many people think that dominance means control. And
Mhm.
dominance really means influence. We all know
Mhm.
authoritarian governments don't work, right?
Right.
Eventually they're overthrown, there's, chaos. So what you want is influence. And you don't, people can have their power dynamics however they want to have them in ways that work.
Totes.
But when you're
Mhm.
hanging out with a friend, it's not about I'm the dominant one and they're the submissive one. It's we take turns. When you're
Mhm.
talking, I'm listening to you and the attention is on you, right? When I'm talking, it's back and forth. And that back and forth is a dance of energy, it's a dance of movement. And that's where play happens. And when we are, in one fixed state all the time, there is no energy, there is no movement. I mean, this happens with corporate teams all the time. Nobody has the balls to tell the boss or the leader, the manager, this is a shitty idea, and they think they're God. And nobody's told Jeff Bezos' wife that the plastic surgeon did did a disservice. That's my opinion. It's a really shitty thing to say, but I really look at some of these plastic surgeries and I'm just like, wow, you are so rich and powerful that nobody has been nice and kind and loving to say like, oh girl, you might want to
Right.
stop where you are and don't do
Right.
it.
They
Um,
need an Eastern European mom to come in and really to be like kind of the person in between, right? Like the
but so there's this, we need to have full transparency and courage to say the thing so that we have that energy. We need that energy to
Right.
show up and be our best selves. We need that movement. And so, in a sub dom, a sub thinks about the attention is on me. I'm focused on my own attention, what I need, and the dom is sort of focused on let me pay attention to you and all of your needs, and I'm trying to figure out what you need. And on a date, if you can take turns switching that up, if you can notice something about if people went on dates and they just said, I'm going to notice three things about you and you notice three things about me, and they went back and forth, that would be a cute little dance and it would create
Yeah.
energy and tension and chemistry. And it's not about power and one controls the other. It's about energy. And like that's what we need.
Yeah. I oftentimes wonder, I mean, I think there are some, I think I've heard a lot with dating, somebody goes out on a date and the other person does not ask one question about them, and it's just a monologue, like a straight up monologue. And I think that, I was thinking about like the authoritarian like conversation style, and sometimes I wonder if it's because that person, I mean, number one, maybe they're just, full of themselves and they have no interest in the person across from them. Or maybe it's also this lack of practice or this fear around being playful or noticing because their anxiety or their anxiety around meeting a new person or meeting people in general is creating this monologue kind of situation, this wall of words, so that the other person can't really penetrate it, and they're not really having an effect on the other person except for putting them to sleep, right? So I wonder if it's just an adaptation, right? That's my generous take on that kind of dating. But yeah.
Yeah, I hear this from women especially so much,
Right. Yeah.
and it's so funny when I get a text or a message from somebody that says, "I went on a date. He planned it. He made the reservation, and he asked questions." And like they're like so shocked that like that's where the bar is, and I think that's like so fascinating that just asking questions, that lack of curiosity that's there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so is that anxiety, or is that a lack of social skills? And you
Mm-hmm.
really see that on the dating apps. And I know this from, having gone on them to see how bad it was. Hey, what's up? And people message you and they say something, but they ask you nothing about yourself. They don't know how to keep a conversation going. They don't know how
Mm.
to make a cute quip or remark about, whatever the environment is or what's going on around them. And it's like, I don't want to do all the heavy lifting of having to carry a conversation. Like it's just
Mm.
work, I don't want to feel like I'm at work and having to,
Right.
placate or appease somebody. And it's, and, a lot of women call that emotional labor. I call it social labor. Um,
Mm. Yeah.
but it's really tough. And if that's a social skill that needs more practice, then maybe it's something as simple as sitting down and writing 10 questions that you're going to have in your back pocket for a date. I mean, there was this article floating around the New York Times, I don't know, 10 years ago. You could probably find it, 36 questions to ask if you want to fall in love.
Yeah.
You pick
Yeah.
five of
Yeah.
those, five of the least intimate. Don't ask, what do you do? That is the
Don't ask them the 36 questions on the first date. Use
yeah,
our
yeah, yeah.
dictionary.
And notice something in your environment. Notice something about them. Notice something about the way they talk. Oh, you have an accent. Are your parents from somewhere? I know you said you were born in New York. Or your parents? Oh, yeah, my mom's from Georgia. That's why I have a little whatever. So
Hmm.
there are little things to pick up.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think that's an issue, and I think we just have been so indoctrinated into this optimization world. And you
Right.
can't optimize what is inherently constantly changing and
Mm-hmm.
messy, which is the human emotional landscape. And we are not a fixed state. We're not a sky that's fixed. The sky is constantly moving. It's gray, it's blue, it's white. The clouds move, they change, they're different kinds. That's who we are. You can't build a system around how to date. You can only build a system of ideas with tools to use depending on the weather that day. You can say, here's my weather wardrobe for this environment I'm living in, whether that environment is I'm in the dating phase, we're engaged, we're
Right.
having a wedding, we're having kids, we're growing old together, whatever those phases are, we're starting a new job, we're taking a project 6 months away. I mean, life throws all the things at you, and having that wardrobe of tools, or
Yes.
the weather wardrobe, but the toolkit to use throughout your life through these phases, I think is important. And unfortunately, we're not even able to get past 1 and 2 dates at this point with so many people, because they're not thinking about the tools. They're thinking about how can I optimize the system to work. And I'm here to tell you it doesn't work like that. Bumble, it's not going to work.
Right. Yeah. And also like 1 to 2 dates. I guess you can catch a vibe, right? But what are the interactions you're having? Like, what are the questions you're asking? What are you noticing about the other person? As opposed to like, what are you downloading about, you know, again, like the things that people share so much on their profiles that you can get information there, right? But like, what are the like, be curious, right? Be curious and be open and be responsive. That's what play is about. But like, each person has to give something, right? you know
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I like
One thing
the
that I've noticed with social media, especially, and this huge shift
Mhm.
in humanity, is that, I actually asked Claude the other day. I was like, go through my Instagram sex. I was like, can you just go through my Instagram and tell me like what's wrong with it? And Claude was like, oh girl, use Instagram as a social network and not as a brand, as brand promotion. And I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, that's why I signed up for Instagram initially, to share updates with my friends and people that are all around the world that I love. Like, I was not ever signing up to be a brand. And I think that speaks to what's happened. We have commodified ourselves into brands, and that dehumanizes us. And when we have dehumanized not just ourselves, but each other, we are now approaching all future relationships as transactional. What can I
Mhm.
get out of this? What will I get out of this? Even if it's dating,
Mhm.
does this person fit what I think I want for my future life partner? And let me
Mhm.
find all the reasons why they don't, so I can move to
Mhm.
the next one, because I have unlimited choices, right?
Mhm.
And that's where there's this fallacy, and that's it's not correct. So we really do have to remember that friendships are not transactions; they're gifts, right?
Mhm.
And a moment of connection with another human being is not a transaction, because even if it's shitty, even if you're like, I don't like that person, you still learn something from it, and hopefully you learn something about yourself. That's the whole point of human connection.
Right. Absolutely. And as you know, I think the point is to not, I mean, we don't want to throw away what it is that we want in a partner. Obviously, like those things are real and important, right? But also, like, it's okay to get to know another person and have an interaction that's playful, that's pleasant, that's warm, that's, where you can learn something and where you can also be like, maybe this is not the relationship for me, but like, let's make this experience as like warm and playful and connected as possible, right? And also, if you do meet somebody who fits all of the things that you want, right, are you going to be able to show up in a way that's playful and connected so that you could get to know the other side of them that you need to really assess and connect to see if, like, can I build a life with this person? Is this a person that I can spend more time with, as opposed to just being like, must have this person, they are perfect. You know what I mean? Like, what if the person is perfect but like you don't have that, you know that as well, that kind of feeling with them, or that ability to play with them, right? They're not your coworker, they're your partner, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's 100% correct, because I think what I'm seeing a lot of is this intense hypervigilance, especially, I mean, from all the genders, but I'm seeing it a lot in heterosis women, and in heterosis men. I will say this intense hypervigilance, and I think that goes back to this transactional mode, this optimized mode of how do I find the best person for me? How do I optimize to find my most perfect person? Guess what? Your most perfect person right now is very quite likely not going to be your most perfect person in 20 years unless you do the thing you were just talking about, which is getting to those deep, intimate moments to say, not just is this the most perfect person for me right now, but does this person have the potential to grow with me, to change with me, to weather the inevitable storms that life will throw at us with me, and that you don't know that by your matching values or socioeconomic status or family history. You only know that by going through it together. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so it's a fascinating thing to see so many people, and that's the thing with hypervigilance. When you're in a constant state of hypervigilance, monitoring, ticking boxes, you're not open and curious. You're not present. You can't play because you're wondering, is this
Right.
person measuring up to all the things that I need them to measure up to be versus who are
Right.
they really showing me they are. And I think
Right.
that's where we're losing our humanity a bit.
Yeah, and if that's and there are all sorts of reasons why people are hypervigilant, and I think that that's, something also that we need to acknowledge. And if it's something that you're noticing within yourself, like if you're noticing that it's difficult for you to let your guard down a little bit or be a little bit playful, or that you're very feeling very rigid around this, it's the moment to reach out for help, right? To talk to a coach, a therapist, and try to figure out, like, where does that come from and how can I make myself feel safe enough to play? What are the things that I need to get underneath in order to be able to be present and to connect with people on this level? Because that's something that, if you override that constantly, you're never going to get to the place that you need to get to in order to feel safe enough to do that.
Yeah, yeah. It's and I also think, if people are struggling with learning how to play, it's a reflection of their interior world. Maybe they were
Hmm.
in a very rigid household. Maybe they were very
Exactly.
had to perform. Therapy, like you said, very important. Just saw. Okay, we're getting some comments, but just saw
Getting a
a
lot of
$1 million idea for first dates. Some restaurant should take this. This was from Reed. Restaurant
oh
menus
yeah.
should have questions on them in each section that people could ask each other: starter, second main, and dessert course questions. That would also be a cool plan on a date. Like, you would stand out if you were a dude on a date and you're like, all right, I have a list of appetizer questions. Here are my five. Do you want to answer one? And like, that would just be such a cute. I will say, efforts showing up when I was buying flowers for midsummer. This is a random segue, but I was at the Trader Joe's. I know they're Trader Joe's flowers, but he was like, "It's a first date."
I love Trader Joe's flowers. I mean, come on, do
Yeah,
floral arrangements with Trader Joe's flowers, come on.
yeah, and it wasn't like, it's not like Valentine's Day or something. It was the first date,
Right.
and he's like, "Can you tell me what your favorite flower is?" And I was like, "Oh my god!" And he was beautiful, man. And just, I was like, "Oh my god, you're bringing flowers!" Like, I was like, "Listen, do you know anything about her? I like, my favorite flower is not going to be her favorite flower. It's the thought that counts." I was like, "Don't bring
Totally.
her red roses, but just something beautiful."
No, don't do that.
Yeah, like, that's too much, but
You
it was.
heard that here.
Shout out to that guy if you ever see or hear this. Like,
So cute.
yeah, it was great. But so it's out there, it exists, and that made my day.
I think that's going to be your next date, right? The starter, second, main, and dessert course questions. We're ready for the questions, Reed. Next time we can talk about those. I love that idea.
And then Mad Philosopher. Yep, some people can only ask questions because of their anxiety. Some people can't ask any, up to what you were saying.
Yeah.
And the other thing is just to lean into that discomfort and say, I mean, I know it's hard, but maybe it's just I'm feeling really nervous right now and kind of dumbfounded and then maybe twisted. You're just so stunning and I'm mesmerized. I'm sorry, I'm a little speechless right now. You know, you could do
Hmm.
any which way or just be vulnerable and lean in and say,
Right.
I had all these questions I want to ask you and my mind has just gone blank. Um, have you been here before? What do you have
Yes.
menu? What looks good to you? I mean, it could be pretty simple.
I love that because it takes vulnerability and makes it less like a dun, I'm like vulnerable. I'm like gonna be, I'm on the firing line, I'm walking the plank, vulnerability kind of feeling to I'm kind of nervous. Like you're stunning. I'm just like blown away. Like you, especially if it's like an online date or something that you haven't met them in person, and it's a totally different thing when you see them IRL. It makes the vulnerability or the nervousness playful, right? Like that's a way of taking something that's very heavy and creating a moment, like a cute moment like that. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. Like, why not? That creates connection.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
And
then,
it
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was
I
just
was
going to
just gonna say one. Yes,
no,
yeah.
no, I love
No,
what you're
you go
doing.
ahead.
Brilliant.
You go ahead.
I was just going to read Mad Philosopher said, thankfully,
Yes.
my wife and I don't have any sort of connection problems. I mean, we're tired. Most people are. Holler. I
Mhm.
suppose there's couples that have been together 20 plus years and they struggle to connect across a dinner table. I see it often. I wanted to start going up to couples on their phones on dates
And
and
smacking them out.
I, I wanted like throw a note that says like look at each other in the eyes like and I'm just like what are you doing like it blows my mind because like we don't get that much time together in general. We're at work, we sleep, and then we're still tired, and it is easier to numb out and zone out, but like
Yeah.
the juicy good stuff is when you connect. And you know we are having to begin to force ourselves to have this sort of impulse control of I'm going
Yeah.
to consciously put my phone down before bed. I'm not going to look at it the first 2 hours when I wake up. I'd like, you know, I think these things have been designed to hijack our brains, and so we have to do what we can to sort of have ownership over that impulse. But I think, and mindfulness, I think, is going to be our an impulse management method.
Mhm.
It's just getting to the point where it's getting in the way of so much human interaction that and connection that it's like why not just all be robots if that's how you're gonna show up on your date and not discuss. And you know the Gottmans and what is it, the Love Prescription, that's the book. I had to go read it. They have this wonderful scene and I'm sure you've had couples like this and I'd love to hear your take on this. And I've actually used the same thing on a couple. And you know you get so tightly wound up into who's right and wrong and fighting, and you know sometimes they come to us and as a referee and they're stressed out and they have kids and they're you know all the things and work. And the Gottman said we had this couple and they were on the brink of divorce and we'd been seeing them and yada yada, and we finally just said go mud wrestle. And the couple
Let's go.
couple was like, "What?" And they were like, "Go mud wrestle. Come back when you've mud wrestled." So they went and they mud wrestled, and their whole relationship was resolved. What they needed was to play. I have a couple now, and the mom is really, really tightly wound. In fact, she was telling me about planning a mom's night, and her idea of a mom's night was to go see a kids movie. It's like, what?
What?
What? So she has no idea how to play. She has no
Oh.
and she's just and like very high achieving, you know,
Mm.
went to the great school, works in tech, very like on paper blown away. I'm intimidated by her, but personality wise doesn't know how to play. And so I
Mm.
suggest, I was like, you two need to play together. You need to find a way to play.
Yeah.
Totally didn't get it, doesn't understand what play is. It's
Yeah.
essential to our connecting, to our loving, all the things. Sorry, my buzzer's going off.
No, no, I was thinking that the same thing with, what Mad Philosopher said, that, when these couples are, yes, they're together for 20 years, they struggle to connect. It's like, go and do something, go create an experience, a mud wrestling, or, I think about my parents' relationship even. Like they're constantly playing games. Like they're literally playing, I mean, literally playing tennis. They play pickleball. They do like rummy cube. They're, tai chi. Like they're always engaged in some, and everything. I've watched them over obviously my life have these different things that they'll interests that they'll go for, because it just keeps things fresh, it keeps things interesting for them. But that's like very much a value that they both have, and they know they need that to keep their marriage alive, right? Or to keep themselves stimulated. But finding those things to do together, I think, is super important. With my partner, it's like we travel, like that's what we do, like that's how we play, we explore the world. That's the thing that keeps us together, and that individually for us is a value. You don't have to do everything together, but there's always, find the things. If you're in a couple and you've lost the ability to play, like I think that the woman that you were talking about before, like she doesn't know how to play. It's like she forgot how to play, because we know how to play when we're kids, right? We come up with these things, and hopefully if kids are not given devices too early on, they can have the opportunity to do it without that. But we all have the ability. We just forget how, and we need to know what works for us at this point for ourselves and in our relationship as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and travel is so wonderful, and that takes me back to the noticing new things, because when we are traveling, we're constantly noticing all the new things that are different than where we live. And so I
Yeah.
think it makes, I mean, I know when I travel, like there's this whole like, spiritual epiphany or something that happens to me, like, whoa, everything's so cool, and you feel like you're in this magic wonderland. I mean, I may as well be on mushrooms or something, because everything's just so euphoric feeling. Um, and and so I think travel is so great for that, because it does sort of force you to notice all the new things and all the different things, and it makes it exciting and fresh. And so I think that's why it's like also important to try to notice something new in your environment. And yesterday on the walk home from school, I said to my son, I said, can you notice on the same route we take every day for the past school year on the way home, can you notice three things different on this block that you've never noticed before? And it was so cool, because he was like, oh, I noticed that molding on that awning. And like, we noticed so many new things, and it turned into more than three. But there's so much, there's such a rich world around us, and
Yeah,
we lose sight of it because we're on autopilot, and we're constantly like, this is who this person is. I've evaluated them. I've put them in this box. And this happens with couples too. And I know everything about them. And so we've lost our curiosity. I know everything about this route home. I've taken it there and back every day since last
right.
September. And now actually there's lots of new things to see about it. And I think that's how you keep things fresh and moving and playing and exciting, is that active noticing. And you can't do that. You can do it when you're tired, but you can't do it when you're glued to a screen, and
Exactly.
you put somebody in a box.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's also, you think, it's like the true Hollywood story. You think, but you have no idea, like you should think that way about your partner, about your life, or about, your friends, not taking things for granted, right? If you don't take things for granted, you're able to open your mind to the possibility that you don't know everything about this route, or your partner, or your friend, or your family member. Um, I think that that's super important. I feel like we need to meet up with Ellen Langer. I just feel it for us. That would be such a be like, Ellen.
Let's go to Boston. I'm down.
Let's do it.
Hey, girl.
I'm down. I'll drive us. Let's go.
um, so we have some. Well, I was going to ask, do we have questions? But I see we have one here. Are you ready to open for questions?
Yeah, and I love this question, and I think the question is the same for both people. for both situations. But my must ask question for a first date and a must ask question for a couple 20 years in, I think for me, I think it's the same question, which is what is lighting you up right now? What is exciting you right now? Because that's a question that we need to ask to our partner, even if we've been with them for 20 years. Because as I said, like we might not know, right, at this moment. And if you don't check in and you take for granted that you know what's exciting them, you know, you could think it's a project that they've been working on for the last 5 years, but maybe it's like their new passion for making pasta or you know, um, Pilates or I don't know, something not with a P. I don't know. So I think that for both scenarios, that is like a very, I think it's a good question at any moment.
I love that. That's brilliant. I'm like, all right, that takes the cake. That's the winner. I'm holding on to that. Love that. Any other questions? All right. So, Shula and I came up with some practical takeaways for everybody on how to have more play. Um, so, the first one is the information diet audit for 3 days before you check your phone in the morning and before any significant interaction. Do a 10-second body scan, jaw, shoulders, breath, and check again 10 minutes after consuming news or social media. You're not auditing content for accuracy, you're tracking what it does to your body because that's the state you carry into the room with the people you love.
Oh, Mad Philosopher Society is already taking the advice, complimenting the shirt. Very
I love
good.
you, Mad Philosopher. I call this it's a dress actually. I don't know if
I love
you
it.
can like, it's like a full on dress. I call it my Spanish dress. It's no
I love
story
it.
behind it. It's my favorite dressmaker. It's all women owned. It's called New Works, and they're artists, and they have their designs put onto different dresses. And I'm
I love
obsessed.
it.
I wear them all the time.
You have
So,
the best dresses. That's where they're from. I'm gonna tell you.
and then, do you want to read off any, Shula, from the four?
Yes. Let me see where it is. I'm sorry. I'm looking for this at the.
I miss Saved by the Bell. It's such a good throwback show.
Where are the four things? So, okay, yes. So the agenda free hour. So spend 1 hour with someone, your partner, your friend, your kid, with an explicit no agenda rule, nothing to decide, fix, plan, or resolve. So not trying to get underneath anything. If you notice yourself steering towards a goal, name it out loud and let it go. Notice how uncomfortable, unproductive time can feel and what that discomfort might be telling you. So just, you know, I'm thinking about when we went to the botanic garden, right? Like just like lying out like a blanket and just doing nothing for a little bit, right? And just seeing what comes up, right? Just enjoying each other's company.
Yeah, that's where, I mean, kids don't know how to be bored, and I'm like, it's I tell my kid this all. I'm like, you need to just be bored. You need to sit there and do nothing. You don't need anything, because that's where you're
Hell
gonna
yeah.
idea. That's where you get creativity.
Hmm.
So when you're bored, and it's amazing, they come up with all kinds of games and stuff, and it's like, oh, great.
I mean, yeah, I do too. Don't you? Come up with all sorts of ideas.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for Saved by the Bell in the best way. I had the biggest crush on Zach. Did you have a crush on any of them?
Yeah, Zach Morris, that was like he was the icon. But I have been told that I look like Jesse Spano. One time I went into a doorman building and the guy was like, "Hey, it's Jesse Spano, Saved by the Bell." And I was like, Showgirls is one of my favorite movies of all time. So I was like, listen, this is the biggest compliment ever.
I see that. Now that you've said it, I'm like, all the way.
I wish. But
You can do
yeah.
it for Halloween. Get the wig and
Oh
like,
yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
it's like
How many Halloweens I've been trying to work that out. Um, Okay, then the next one is, do you want to read off the next one, or you?
Sure. So the repair replay. Think of a recent moment of playful friction. And this could be for friendships, anything, right? Even at work. A joke
Mhm.
that landed weird, a tease that stung a little. How did it resolve? Did someone name it, laugh it off, double down, go quiet? Notice your own pattern. That pattern is very likely the same one that shows up in your bigger conflicts, just at a lower volume.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and just, did you survive, right? Like if something happens where it doesn't land in the best way, like how do you kind of like shake it off and have some self-compassion for yourself in those
Yep.
moments too. I think that that's a super important thing. Like if it doesn't land or if somebody doesn't hear it, like doesn't mean that it was terrible, or if you have to go apologize to someone, by all means do that. That's also an act of self-compassion, right?
Yeah.
Repairing with another person that way. And then the last one is the real world rep with someone different. So have a this week have one unhurried, low stakes conversation with someone whose views or background differ from yours. A neighbor, a coworker, someone at a third place. No agenda, no debate. Just notice what it's like to encounter a whole person instead of a position.
Love that.
So,
And that
yeah.
doesn't have to mean that you go online and you pick a fight. Like this is an in-person thing, it can
Mm-hmm.
just, and it doesn't mean somebody has to be politically charged or different than you, etc., or
Mm-hmm.
have, wildly different views. They could just be there from a different country or from a different place. And, ask them
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the biggest challenges about where you're from that,
Mm-hmm.
people where you're from are facing right now. I want to learn,
Mm-hmm.
it could be something so simple. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I think those are key because over 50% of Americans don't have their passport. So and I always say if I won the lottery and had enough money, I would create a fund and pay for people to travel because I think it's so important that we understand different perspectives and understand how how people are different and how we all really have a lot in common. We suffer and struggle and
Mm-hmm.
go through shit all the same, and we celebrate. I mean, this collective effervescence of the New York Knicks winning and then winter,
Mm,
the solstice. I mean, New York City needed this rain today because she has
for
been
sure.
on duty for
On
15 business days.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, and it's like just I think also, and a lot of our neighbors who are not from here, are not feeling super safe now too. So that's also like important to connect with people that way as well.
Yeah, New York City felt like the opening scene of Beauty and the Beast, where everyone was so like the next day they were like, "Happy Knicks Day,
Oh,
everybody!" And it was just like everyone was
yeah,
so happy and like people were. I was helping tourists on the train. It was great.
yeah, it's
So,
fun.
in closing, play is what is left when we stop trying to get somewhere. It's not a tool for better relationships. It's what relationships look like when they stop being used as tools. So,
Hmm.
I hope you all go out there and remember, play with yourself too a little bit. And I don't just mean masturbate. I mean, challenge yourself, ask yourself some questions.
Totally, yeah, and even if you start, I think I also tell people like if they are being hard on themselves, I think it's also an opportunity to be like, just, like kind of have a sense of humor about yourself too. I think it's sometimes we take ourselves so seriously, and it's like we have to do this or we got to get better, and it's like, okay, calm down. Sometimes I do that with myself. I'm like, all right, all right, all right, it's gonna be fine. Like go for a walk, like it's not that deep. And I think it's be playful with yourself, and maybe that inner voice that isn't so kind to you at all the times.
Oh, I love that. Like, awesome tip for the win at the end. Have playfulness in your inner dialogue. Make your
Yeah,
voice a little bit more playful. I love that.
yeah, kind of, compassionate.
All right. Well, thanks
All
everybody
right,
for joining us. I hope you have a great
thank you.
day.
Bye.